Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your relationship without your man's conscious effort so that you feel desired and taken care of and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm sharing 3 steps to end the exhausting tug of war forever. My guest, Rebecca, wasn't controlling. Her husband was. He didn't seem to care about her happiness at all. But today her husband delights in fulfilling her desires and making her dreams come true. She's going to share how she inspired him. Then I'll be giving out the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award, which I'm all incensed and infuriated about, and you'll see why. All that is coming up. But first, let's talk about 3 steps to end the exhausting tug of war forever. When every negotiation at your house feels like a battle, you waste a lot of energy. Whether it's about how to handle a baby who won't sleep, a budget that doesn't add up, or a growing mess in the house, it takes a lot longer to accomplish things when you have to debate and argue about them first. Instead of feeling light and energized, you already feel tired before breakfast when you've had to have a back and forth about who should drive the kids or walk the dog or stop spending so much. You just want to be logical and do what makes sense to solve the problem. But your husband doesn't see it the same way, or he won't talk about it, or he won't do things the way you need them done. This is not teamwork. This is an endless argument, most of it petty. But how do you stop the tug of war when nothing you say seems to make any difference to him? Well, here are 3 steps to end the power struggle with your spouse and still get what you want, which is very important. Number 1, you want to look for the hero. Alexa and her husband, Tom, had a long-standing power struggle around planning family vacations. She started by pointing out that they hadn't been on a vacation for ages and that they never did things together as a family. So she thought they should visit an area a day's drive away. And Tom responded with a noncommittal shrug, and he reminded her that he didn't like driving long distances. And to Alexa, that meant he expected her to do all the driving, which seemed completely unfair. She explained why he should be willing to drive his family on a vacation at least once a year, and that logically, he couldn't expect her to do all the driving. As Alexa started planning the trip, Tom seemed to find fault with every suggestion. He obviously didn't even want to go. She couldn't understand why he didn't want to be a good husband and father who saw sights and hiked and relaxed with his family. This clash had been going on for so long that Alexa felt anxiety and pain just thinking about a family trip. I know he's going to drag his feet, she said, and it would mean so much to me if he would just support my efforts to take a vacation. This issue came up every year. But in the meantime, they also had power struggles about how much he worked, how often he missed family dinner, and who should have to go to parent-teacher conferences. Alexa couldn't understand why her husband was so removed and unwilling to show up for their family. Exhausted with the status quo, she decided to do something completely different. She started with looking for the hero in her husband as part of practicing the 6 intimacy skills in the connection framework. And at first, it wasn't easy to see past all his glaring deficiencies. But she reluctantly admitted that he worked to support the family, he helped the kids with their homework, and he was great about making sure the cars were maintained. Her instinct was to rebut that list, to point out his faults. But as an experiment, she decided to forego this temptation and stay focused on what he was doing right. She expressed her appreciation and happiness to Tom about his strengths. And that's when a funny thing happened. He stopped taking his food to the TV room to eat like he had been for years. He started showing up for family dinner the way she'd always wanted him to. Alexa was quick to tell him how much she loved having his company at dinner. And soon, eating together as a family in the evenings became the norm. This seemed like a miracle to Alexa. But what about those teacher conferences and especially the family vacations, she wondered. Number 2, say what you want. Alexa realized that she had fallen into the habit of complaining and trying to reason with her husband in their negotiations instead of giving him the vital information that he needs to make her happy, which is what she wants. At first, she was able to come up with only what she didn't want. She didn't want him to work so much. She didn't want to have to do all the driving on the vacations herself. She didn't want to go to those dreaded teacher conferences alone. All of that would have landed as the same tired complaints her husband had from her for years. It took some real effort to figure out what she did want. She realized that she would love to go on a weekend getaway in addition to the annual vacation. She would also love to relax on the way, and she would love help with the stressful teacher conferences. When she expressed those desires to her husband, she was amazed at how quickly he responded. First, he offered to handle teacher conferences himself, so she didn't even have to go. She couldn't believe her ears. Alexa felt some anxiety come up, and she realized that she was attached to how their family was represented at the school. If she didn't go to the conference, how could she make sure they gave the right impression? After noticing that fear coming up, she decided to trust that her husband would represent their family well. So she stayed home while he went to meet with the teachers, and she found great relief in relinquishing that job to her husband. Number 3, let him know when he makes you happy. So what about the loaded topic of family vacations, you might wonder? As Alexa maintained her focus on all that her husband was doing right and kept saying what she wanted instead of complaining, a complete shift happened at their house. No longer were there nightly power struggles. He wasn't working as much, and he seemed to be enjoying their family time together. And then he initiated and planned an entire week-long family vacation, a road trip to a beautiful national park. Alexa was clear that this never would have happened prior to her practicing the intimacy skills. But even more surprising, the question of who would drive them never came up. Tom drove the entire time. Alexa felt some guilt knowing that he doesn't like driving long distances. She was tempted to offer to drive half the time, but instead she trusted him to speak up if he wanted a break from driving. And then she focused on singing and chatting and telling Tom how great he was for driving them and how happy it made her. And somehow he never did say he wanted help with the driving. Instead of complaining about all the driving he had to do, he beamed at how happy he was making his wife. That was the first of many such travels, and at home, Alexa and Tom now spend more time snuggling than power struggling. If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. My guest, Rebecca, made so many sacrifices to make her husband happy that she was exhausted and even seasick because he wanted to spend so much time on their new boat. He didn't seem to care about her happiness at all. But today, her husband delights in fulfilling her desires and making her dreams come true. She's going to share how she inspired him. Rebecca, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Laura. It's an honor to be here.
So tell me what was going wrong in your marriage. What were things like in the bad old days?
Oh, gosh. I don't like to think about that and go back there. But, I really thought it was my job to make my husband happy. And I completely exhausted myself. And I gave up everything. I sacrificed myself. I gave up my career. I gave up friends. I gave up hobbies, anything that may have made me happy because I thought I needed to cater to him now and just sacrifice. Actually, rewinding a little bit, I had my daughter when I was only 19 years old. And so, I revolved my life around her. Everything I did was for her. And so I was used to putting myself on the back burner because she's more important and her needs are, she needs me right now. So I raised her as a single mom for a lot of years and chose to stay single while I dedicated my life to her, and my needs were on the back burner, and that was fine. And then she grew up, and she didn't need me anymore, and she told me that it was time for me to go get a life. So I joined So I joined the local hiking club, and I met my husband shortly thereafter. And I had this like void, this need to be needed too. And I mean, I didn't really know how to live for myself, but I was very comfortable, revolving myself around someone else and catering to them. And so he fulfilled that role for me. And it felt so good, like to make him happy in the beginning. Like I thought, I am your savior. I'm here to make you happy. That was like my role. And it really felt good at the time. But then, fast forward, years later, and I completely exhausted myself and I became very resentful. And it wasn't even working anymore. What I was doing, bending over backwards, sacrificing myself. I was the perfect, like, people-pleasing, self-sacrificing martyr. That was me. And it wasn't even helping him. It wasn't even making him happy. And I had nothing left to give. I was completely depleted. And I realized what I was doing wasn't even working because he was unhappy and I was super angry and resentful. So yeah, that's where I just really hit the wall. And I didn't know what to do. Yeah. So those were kind of like the bad old days.
So was there a lot of fighting about it or just kind of like Cold Wars? It was just
a lot of tension. And I was always walking around on eggshells, like, and then just, it's nothing, it never seemed to be enough, whatever I was doing, no matter how much I sacrificed and gave up. And he always like seemed to want more and was never satisfied.
So you're not really the controlling type in a way, right? Is that fair to say? Like that was
don't think that I'm the controlling type. No.
Because we have kind of a lot of controlling women around here, but you're not really, I don't think you would have classified yourself that way.
Except that maybe I was trying to control his happiness and his emotions. I wanted him to be happy so I could be okay and relax.
Okay, yeah. So if he would get happy, but he wasn't happy. Mm-mm. So, and did you feel like, okay, he's just an ungrateful person or he's got a bad temper or?
I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what, I just thought, wow, he just has this void that I can't fill. Yeah. And it was really defeating. Like, oh my gosh, I thought I was his savior. I thought I was like, the answer to all his prayers. And like, I was, but then I was failing. It wasn't working. It was so devastating, actually. And I didn't know where to go from there.
So were you considering maybe ending that marriage or like, where was your head at?
Well, okay. So this all came to a head like, on supposedly a dream vacation, but it just ended up terrible. And so when we got back from that trip, I just realized, wow, that, whatever I did, it wasn't enough and I had nothing left to give. So I got desperate and I signed up for a marriage counselor. I bought a book on boundaries. And so I tried that for a while and it made things worse. Like I was just setting these angry, resentful boundaries and like pushing him away out of anger. And I tried that and yeah, the counselor really wasn't, we just went on a further downward spiral and he felt me pushing away. And so he even became more controlling and clingy and smothering. Yeah. So then after we went on that downward spiral, I didn't think that I could stay. It was so unhealthy and tension all the time. I didn't like feel safe in my own home. And that's a friend of mine during the darkest time told me about your book, First Kill All the Marriage Counselors. And then I had like, after reading that book, I was like, oh my gosh, well, maybe there's hope. I'm not going to give up. And I had some runaway money that I was going to use to leave. And I decided to use my runaway money to hire a coach.
Wow. I can so relate to that. Like just wanting a stash of cash on the side. Like, okay, I had that too. Like this marriage is probably not going to work out. So I'm just going to keep some money so I can get freedom if I need it. So would it be fair to say you thought that he was controlling? He was the controlling one.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So kind of demanding or.
Yeah. And when I started sticking up for myself and setting these boundaries, it only made it worse. He became even more controlling.
Right. And so then how do you escape that if he's going to be so oppressed?
I just thought I had to escape. I didn't see any other way out.
Yeah. Okay. So you read the book and then you said, okay, maybe there's hope and I'm going to use that's kind of a big deal because you
went from like, it's hopeless, I have to get out of here, to, okay, now I'm going to invest and I'm going to double down on this marriage. I'm saying I'm going to actually spend my escape money. So now there's no escape.
Right.
So was that
a leap of faith for sure?
Yeah, it was a leap of faith. It must have been kind of scary, right?
Oh, it was really scary. And I just thought, but you know what? I mean, I don't want to lose my marriage. And I felt hope from your book. And I thought maybe there's something I can do to turn this around.
Was it kind of a stretch though? Because I do think, because you were feeling like the victim who'd given so much.
I was totally a victim.
Okay. And so what part of the book spoke to you and said, well, things can be different then? Like, how did you get that out of there in your situation? I think this is really fascinating, because I think a lot of times women say, well, I have a controlling husband, so this is not going to work for me. But you saw something different for yourself. So what was it?
I think it was just all of the skills put together. That all just made so much sense to me. And I thought, you know what, I really need to try this. I guess I had never really honored myself. And I thought, so I guess it turned it on to me, like, how do I feel and what do I want? I never asked myself that. I didn't even know who I was or what I desired. And then I thought, you know what? That's on me. That's not, he doesn't know what I want. He doesn't, so I can't really blame him. I just went along with everything because I thought I had to. I just thought I put his desires ahead of mine, and I didn't even know what my desires were. So that's on me to figure out. So I just realized I have so much work to do for myself.
I love that, Rebecca. And I love this story about the boat. He went and got a boat. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, within a month after we got married, he said, oh, I'm thinking about getting a sailboat. And I said, sure, So he got a boat, and it was really fun at first. And, the day trips and weekend trips to Catalina. And then he started planning longer trips and like overnight trips, like where we'd have to like take shifts, like operating the boat. And we sailed all, 1,000 miles down the coast. And I got sick, like on the boat in the middle of the ocean. The first time I got like 104 fever. The second time he planned like a 3-month trip. And I had like bronchitis the whole time. And I wasn't near my doctors, and it just didn't agree with me. But on that 3-month trip, my husband like fell in love. He just loved it so much. And he bought a bigger boat while we were on that trip. And I did kind of say, I'd love to wait till we get back, so I can see how I feel. But I didn't have a voice really. And I didn't even know how to express. And I just felt trapped. And I didn't think that I had any right to argue with what he wanted. I just thought, I just didn't know. I didn't have a voice.
Did you ever because I can relate in some ways, even though I was very controlling, but there was also just times I would just lose my mind I would just explode and kind of go into a rage because I'd kind of sucked everything down so much. Did you ever have episodes where you just kind of let loose?
Well, you know what? That is what happened when I call it like I hit the wall. I realized I have nothing left to give, and it's not enough. And then I feel like I was like all that resentment and anger and sacrificing myself and abandoning myself for so many years. I felt like a volcano at that point. So I was not even able to express myself in a dignified way at that point.
No, sure. Of course not. I couldn't either, right? I didn't have all that time of not honoring myself. Like it had to come out somehow. So, okay. So you got the book, you got some hope, and you decided I'm going to spend my getaway money on some coaching. So what did you start to do differently than what you'd been doing before?
Well, what I started to do differently, I had to learn how to honor myself and ask myself, like, how do I feel and what do I want? Because I had just neglected myself for so long. And I didn't really even know how I felt or what I wanted. So it was a long journey, and it was a scary journey for me because I felt like my feelings and desires, they're going to conflict with how he feels and what he wants. And so I was so scared that my marriage was just going to have to end because it conflicts with what he wants. So, I mean, I started out really small with things that I knew wouldn't, be in conflict with what he wanted, just to test the waters, stick my toe in to try and test it out. And I started to see like, wow, he is responding. And, if I would express just a desire, that wasn't coming from an angry, resentful place, because that was hard for me to get to that point, because I think I had a lot of cleaning up to do inside myself, because I wasn't really able to express myself calmly and like the goddess of fun and light. I wasn't able to do that initially because I was so resentful. But that's clearing out, and so I'm starting to be able to express things just in a lighthearted way. And he would just jump to accommodate my desires. And
like what kinds of desires were you testing the waters with?
Well, the little baby ones, like, I would love to have some like pretty stringing lights on our roof. And he just made that happen right away. Like I expressed like a desire for stronger Wi-Fi, so my Zoom calls don't, freeze up. And he jumped to accommodate that. And then, he's had these big plans when he bought a bigger boat. Like he wanted to just go make this a lifestyle and sail around the world like a gypsy. And I realized I can't do that. I can't do that. So I just expressed my desire, that I support him if he wants to do that. And I would love to just like fly into these amazing places that he wants to take the boat to and, have a vacation like that. And just recently he sailed our boat all the way to French Polynesia, and he flew me into Bora Bora last week. So
my gosh.
Bora Bora. And I also, like, on that trip, it's kind of silly because we're staying on the boat, right? But I thought I would love to stay in one of those little huts over the water. And I just said it like that. And so he made that happen, and we got to stay in one of those little huts over the water.
I love it. So this was such a big area of, like, it seemed like potential conflict.
Yes.
We can't ever navigate this because he loves to boat, and I get sick we will never be able to fix this one.
Yeah.
And what you're describing is, it sounds like it's fit. Was he happy with this arrangement?
You know what? It took a while for me to get to that one, because that was the big one. I just felt like I was trapped and stuck, and it's going to end our marriage if I don't go with him. So that was more of an advanced desire. That's more recent, but yeah,
it's a happy ending. It sounds like. I mean, it's a happy.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and So that's huge.
Yeah.
That is huge.
So this was a terrifying thing for you to express. Like, I'd love to fly in and meet you, but I don't want to spend all that time on the boat getting to French Polynesia.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And I think that I think it was about me. It took a while for me to get to the point where I could just really express that in a light way, rather than feeling like anticipating that he's going to fight me. And I'm feeling shame about that. I had to kind of clear that out and be able to really just truly express my desire. And then he responded. So it really, all along, I'm looking back, it really wasn't about him fighting me. It was maybe the way that I was coming across with it. I didn't really think that I deserved to have my desires met. I was not sure. I doubted myself and didn't really, like, does he really love me enough to, it was an internal struggle that I had to get to that place. Yeah.
I think this is so common, and you're expressing it so beautifully, because I think that's at the core of so many of our, like so many marital conflicts. Is like, am I lovable? Am I worthy? Do I really deserve to have the desires of my heart? And so you were envisioning that he was going to explode or divorce you.
Yeah.
As you brought these things.
I didn't go along with whatever he wanted. Yeah, I was really scared.
And you probably had some evidence from the times you brought up things previously with the prior resentment,
yes,
and terror. You probably had brought things up that you wanted and gotten a really bad response.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's kind of a trap, right? Because you think like, oh no, believe me, this guy's not, he doesn't care about my happiness. He wants me on a boat. It makes me sick. Right.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, okay. So, anyway, so I love this story about spending a week in Bora Bora. So how did you first know, like, okay, this is going to work for me? Like, let's go back to that moment. Like, my marriage can be saved.
Okay. Well, when I started learning how to express my desires and my limits without fear and resentment, like, I had to get rid of that first. I mean, it seems like, but when I finally got the hang of that, he started rearranging our life to accommodate my desires with regard to the boat. And also I just had this deep desire for a meaningful work. And so I was so scared to bring that up too, because how am I going to work? He's retired and he's just loves to travel. So I couldn't really have a real job. But I was praying about it, and I came across like the coaching program. I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to be a coach, and that's portable. Like, I can do that
anywhere in the world. Yeah.
So I had this, I mean, it was so like such a deep desire that was going to fulfill my need for purpose in my life, meaningful work. And it was so scary for me to bring that to him. I didn't know how he was going to respond, and I really needed him because it was quite a big financial investment, and I really needed his support. But I expressed it, the way you recommend in your book. It's like you give us the words, and he was so supportive, and he was on board. And so I'm in the coach training now.
That's awesome. You're going to be a coach, and you'll just do your coaching. You'll coach women from Bora Bora or wherever you have to be. Catalina, wherever. I love that. So this is quite a transformation from thinking you're going to run away to.
Yeah. I just realized that he really does care about my desires, and he's willing to invest and sacrifice to make me happy. And I just realized when I express myself the right way, he really does light up. He loves my visions when I'm able to express my vision for something. And he really, I think, he loves to just fulfill my desires when I'm able to express it like that.
I love what he said to you about how you're the dreamer.
Yeah. He said that you're the dreamer and I'm the dream maker. And then, what's really funny, he always felt that way. And because I just realized, like, before we were married, we were on this little sailboat, like just outside the harbor. And I just expressed a frivolous dream, like, wouldn't it be so romantic to sail around the world? And you know what? He that planted a seed in his mind. So all along, he thought this was my dream. And so he's the dream maker. So he was going to make that happen. And then along the way, I realized I don't really like this. It's making me sick. But I couldn't, I had completely lost my voice by that time. And so.
Wow. So this is incredible. So the skill of expressing your desires in a way that inspires has been really key for you. And it sounds like your desires changed, and that was okay. That ended up being okay.
Yeah, but I didn't think it was okay either. So I had shame about that, Yeah. Oh, wow. But now I realize that's okay. That's my prerogative, right? As a woman. So
it totally is. What other skills have you, used to like improve, kind of fix the dynamic between the two of you?
Oh, wow. I would say all of them, but, self-care, of course, is the foundation. And if I don't get my self-care in every day, all the skills go out the window. So I would say that one is a foundational skill. I need to be, focused on how I feel and what I need, and, every day. And I need to look for ways to make myself happy. And then also maybe it's the respect part too. Like, I got so scared of him because I was, he has like all these desires, and I felt like I was just getting dragged along. So I think I stopped listening to him too. So when I started implementing the skills and just really listening to him, he needs that to feel respected. And so I learned through your work that I can listen to him and have my desires too. I didn't even think, I thought it was either or, like his desires or mine. But now I'm learning to just really listen to him. And he is really smart, and he has a totally different way of looking at things and approaching things. And that's really beneficial when we can work together. And so it's easier for me to listen to him now, because that doesn't mean I have to just stuff my desires. I can do both.
Yeah. So, and he obviously knows that you're in the coach training. And does he say anything about, these are some pretty big changes you've made? Has he?
All I know is he's super supportive of the training. So he makes sure that nothing interferes with my class, and he'll take the dog out and just make sure that I'm not going to be interrupted. And yeah. Oh, another one of the skills you asked me is another big one was, what you focus on expands, and like expecting the best from him. And I think it's called the spouse fulfilling prophecy. So just trying to focus on seeing the best in him, and anticipating the best outcome, and just believing that he loves me, and telling myself that. And it's just so magical. And it really, those little things that it really comes true, whatever we're focused on.
So what was your spouse fulfilling prophecy for him?
Oh, well, I had a lot of them. There's too many to count, but yeah.
So, and what's your relationship like now?
Well, we feel safer with each other. We actually enjoy our time together more. When tension does arise, the peace is restored so much quicker. I feel like usually either it's something, the way I said something maybe, or maybe it's not about me, and he just has to sort something out on his own paper. So, but I guess I don't feel so responsible now for his stuff. Like I used to feel responsible if he was, in a bad mood, or I felt like it was my fault and I had to fix it. So I don't do that anymore. So I feel like I have more energy, and it's just, I'm not driving myself down trying to fix him. And I'm also just trust that he can sort his own stuff out. So that's a big load off my shoulders.
Yeah, it sounds like a relief.
Yeah. And he's really kind of taken my lead, with gratitude. He decided that we were going to express gratitude to each other before dinner every night. So, because I guess he liked it when I expressed gratitude. So he made that like a habit for us.
Oh, so you started it, and then he kind of formalized it that it's going to happen for dinner.
Yeah.
That must be a fun part of your day every day. You're like, I'm going to find out what he's grateful for me.
Yeah, I put the pressure on. So I got to look for things like, because I have to come up with 3 things at dinner. So
yeah, that's right. So you have to think of something to appreciate about him too.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of probably leaves a nice glow, I'm sure, over your dinner.
Yeah.
So Rebecca, what would you say to yourself if you could go back in time and talk to that woman who had her getaway money and was thinking about getting away?
Oh my gosh. I would tell her to be courageous enough to honor yourself. And you are worth it. And your husband really does love you. And he just needs to know what you want so he can make you happy.
Sweet. Beautiful. And what's your advice to a woman who's feeling like you, like, I'm not the controlling one. He's the controlling one. He's overbearing. He doesn't care about what I want. How can I get to the point where the man is rearranging the world so that I can be happy like what you've done?
Well, I would just tell her, no matter how bad things seem right now, there's so much hope to turn things around. And you really can create the life and marriage of your dreams. And you hold the power to manifest whatever you desire. You have so much power. And you can definitely turn things around.
Just like Dorothy with the red shoes, right? Just
absolutely. Yes.
She had the power all along. Well, it's impressive. Okay, so I just really appreciate you sharing this story. I think it's a kind of a unique angle to be the one who was, just kind of stuffing your own desires, and just all the magic that came out when you started honoring that. So, congratulations on what you've accomplished.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. And now it's time for the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award.
It's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice. Yeah, it's the worst relationship advice of the worst relationship advice of the week.
And the advice that's infuriating me this week was sent to me from a student who saw it in the Sunday Times in the UK, where a British psychotherapist was extolling the advice of an American psychologist who says, gently express what you feel and need in a positive way. So far, so good, right? So it says, so don't say you always talk about yourself. You're so selfish. Instead, say, I'm feeling left out of our talk. I need to vent. Can we please talk about my day? So first of all, this is a shout out to the sharp-eyed student who sent this in. Thank you so much for contributing to this podcast and for sending me such unbearably appalling advice. This is exactly the kind of advice that I love to give the Worst Relationship Award to, because this is something I tried in my marriage, and let me just tell you, it just didn't work. It made things much, much worse. And that's why this advice disgusts me. The part where the psychologist says to express what you feel and need in a positive way sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I'm all for that. But then the example of saying, I'm feeling left out of our talk is actually not expressing a feeling at all. Starting your sentence with, I'm feeling, and then throwing in a complaint or a criticism, that is not the same as sharing how you feel. Nor would I say this was positive, because, it's actually a criticism wrapped in a complaint, which is you're leaving me out and only talking about yourself, and I'm sick of it. That's the subtext here. And then if you add, I need to vent. Can we please talk about my day? That's the same as saying, enough about you. Let's talk about me. Please listen while I complain for a while. And don't say anything about you, only me. I mean, this would be good if you were trying to be resistible for some reason. It would work great for that. But it's not going to lead to a deep, intimate conversation or feeling desired or taken care of or special. Definitely not. Now, I'm all for expressing feelings and saying what you would love, which is a little different from saying what you would need, right? I need oxygen. I need food. I need water. I need sleep. But I would love to remodel the bathroom. I would love to watch my favorite show, go for a walk, have sushi for dinner, have a pedicure, and lots of other things. And my husband wants to make me happy. So I like to express feelings and what I want versus saying what I need. If I say I need something, if I need a pedicure, it's a little overdramatic, right? Because let's face it, I don't actually need a pedicure, but I would love to have a pedicure. So for me, the goal is to say how I feel and what I desire, not so much what I need. And when I'm expressing a feeling, I know that means I'm going to say I'm feeling mad, sad, bad, glad, or afraid. That's it. That's my mnemonic device for remembering all the feelings. Mad, sad, bad, glad, or afraid. There are lots of variations on those words, like discouraged is a variation of sad. Grateful is a form of glad. Frustrated is mad. Guilty and ashamed are bad, right? Nervous or anxious are afraid, and so on. You get the picture. If you're using a feeling word, then you're expressing a feeling. Left out is not a feeling. It's a negative interpretation of someone else's actions. You left me out. Lonely is a feeling. Ignored is not a feeling. And I know that some of those feelings are going to be connecting and others are not. So if I decided to show up mad, as in, I'm irritated that you're not asking me about my day, then I know that any intimacy and connection, which I value highly, are going to go out the window, because anger at the person I'm talking to is not a connecting feeling. It's just yet another form of, you guessed it, complaining. And remember, complaints are just lazy desires. That's all they are. They're just smelly, lazy desires. You can take any complaint and flip it and come up with a desire, which is so much more inspiring and pleasant and interesting than a smelly old complaint. Now, if I show up with a connecting feeling and I say, I'm nervous about my presentation tomorrow. I hope I prepared enough. Well, now I'm actually having a conversation with him about my day, just like the person in this example wanted, right? And I'm actually expressing a feeling instead of saying, I'm feeling, and then saying any damn thing I want afterward. See the difference between feeling left out and feeling nervous about my presentation? The first has an implicit you in it, right? I'm feeling left out by you. You left me out. The second one is completely about me because it's all on my paper. The first one is going to cause him to leave tire marks in the driveway trying to get away. And the second is expressing a feeling in a way that's going to create intimacy and deep conversations and irresistibility. Also saying, can we please talk about my day? That is just downright resistible. I mean, imagine a friend saying those words to you. You're chatting on the phone and she says, I'm feeling left out of our talk. I need to vent. Can we please talk about my day? Would you feel inspired to lean in and listen close? No way, right? You'd probably be looking for a way to get off the phone as quick as you could. Same goes for your man. For that reason, the advice that you should say, I'm feeling left out of our talk. I need to vent. Can we please talk about my day? Is far and away the very worst relationship advice I've heard all week. Thanks so much to the student who sent it in. Mwah. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, we'll talk about the number one most powerful intimacy skill of all. And in the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that a friend said he saw some professional level volleyball players on the very court that we were playing on a few days ago. So I asked, was that on Thursday? And was one of them me?